श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवाननी जय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराजनी जय, राधा कृष्ण देवनी जय, सियावर रामचंद्र भगवाननी जय, उमापति महादेवनी जय, गुरु हरि प्रमुख स्वामी महाराजनी जय, गुरु हरि महन स्वामी महाराजनी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज शताब्दी महोत्सवनी जय, लंदन मंदिर रजत जयंती महोत्सवनी जय. Welcome to this session of Timeless Hindu Wisdom. In the previous session, we have just explored that Hindu wisdom is essentially important for creating a belief in oneself. We explored that even simple 10 sadhus who had complete belief in themselves were able to stop the march of the mighty Alexander. Not only stop, but help him change the perspective of his life. But even if you have education, talent, and you are also acclaimed in the world, but the moment you lack self-belief, people will stop believing in yourself. It's as simple as that if you don't believe in yourself, who else will? You tend to self-isolate, you become low, you become lonely, and you cut yourself from everything around you, and you keep sinking into a depression from which you can never get back. So most important factor in anybody's life, it begins with belief in oneself. Psychologists tell us that beliefs are invisible, but they drive our visible world. Sometimes things invisible are more important than things visible. We can see food and water, but air is invisible, but it's more important. We see great buildings, but the foundations we can't see, they are invisible, but they support the buildings. We see planets, but the force of gravity which holds the planets together is invisible, more important. We see and experience so many things around us of human behavior, but what really drives us are our invisible values like love, compassion, faith, honesty, and our inner beliefs. So we see behavior of the entire human population, good, bad, neutral, but behavior is driven by beliefs. Psychologists tell us that beliefs, they determine behavior, and if you continue to behave in a certain pattern, you create a being. So from belief, you have behavior, and lots of such behavior results into a being, which again creates those beliefs. It's very simple. It's very important that we understand that whether you're a volunteer or whether somebody is a terrorist, whether you're a winner or you're a failure, whether you turn yourself into a leader or whether you become a follower, whether you're a positive person or whether you're a negative person, it all begins with a set of beliefs that you and I have, and the set of beliefs that we keep nourishing and nurturing within ourselves. One example that comes to my mind which will really help throw light onto all this is once I was in our temple. One person came up and he was telling me that, Swamiji, I have a 4-year-old boy and he's very interesting. I said, what's so interesting about him? He said once he was asking me that, Dad, who is the boss of this house? So he said, I said that, yeah, I am the boss of this house. He said, when you are out at work, then who is the boss of the house? I said, your mother is the boss of the house. He said, when mom has gone out shopping, who is the boss of the house? He said that I told him that your elder sister is the boss of the house. He said, when my sister goes to college and nobody's around, who's the boss of this house? Then I said, dear, it's you. You are the boss of this house when nobody's around. But why do you want to be the boss of the house? You know what the boy replied? He said, so I can be bad. I warned that man. I said, look, you got to really understand. When your boy at this small age is thinking about not just being the boss, but being the boss for being bad, that's worrisome. You need to really wonder and worry about his set of beliefs. Because he didn't do much, the boy became a problem child. And then even now, the parents are struggling with him. A set of beliefs, what you and I have and secretly hold, those are the set of beliefs which shape our behavior. What do I mean by self-belief? A simple thing like, take a cockroach. If you look at it, it's literally harmless. The cockroach is never there to really kill us, and it really can't do much to a human being. Because generally human beings have an allergy for a cockroach. It can create a chaos. There's a classic example when on a hot afternoon, one cockroach, just to escape from the heat, it crawls into a restaurant. And the restaurant is cool, AC. While it crawls and it just tries to find a place to settle and it flies into the air, the whole restaurant is completely full with high-end visitors. The cockroach settles comfortably on one boy's shoulder. The boy looks at it and screams. The cockroach feels that this is not the right place. It flies onto the mother's lapel. And she feels so scared and she jumps in the air and throws her hands up in the air and creates a tantrum. The waiter who was passing by, the cockroach jumps from that onto the waiter's tray. Looking at the cockroach flying around, the waiter throws everything up in the air. And there's completely pandemonium and there's chaos in the whole restaurant. People are jumping, trying to run away because of a simple cockroach. One wise man, he gets up, gently picks up the cockroach and eases it out of the restaurant. Calm and peace returns. Everybody felt that the cockroach was out to hurt them. But it wasn't the cockroach that created the chaos. It was people's reaction towards the cockroach that created the chaos. The cockroach wasn't there to harm. It didn't even really recognize that there are human beings. It was just searching for a better place. Many times in life, we allow our own sets of beliefs to dominate us, and they do. It is very important that we create a set of beliefs that create calmness and peace. Otherwise, our own beliefs can create a complete collapse. Look what happened to the great mighty warrior Arjuna. Just before the Mahabharata war, Arjuna, he puts on all his armor, gets onto the chariot, asks Lord Krishna, his charioteer, to take the chariot to the middle of the battleground. In the middle of the battleground, as he looks upon the people or the enemies and foes that he has to face, he suddenly goes into a lack of self-belief. He starts questioning his own purpose and meaning. He puts down his bow and arrow, and then he tells Lord Krishna, Siddhanti mama gatrani mukham cha parishusyati vepathuscha sharire me roma harshascha jayate gandivam sansate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate nacha shaknomi avasthatum brahmativa cha me manaha. O Lord Krishna, my hands and feet are trembling. My mouth is dry. My body is shuddering. I cannot stand on my own feet. My hair is standing on its end. My mind is spinning and my skin is burning. Arjun drops his bow and arrow, sinks into a depression, completely confounded. Lord Krishna tells Arjun, the only way to come out of this state of grave depression and despondency, because Arjun starts arguing against his set of beliefs or against his self-belief. He was a warrior. Did he not know that he was going to fight on that day? Of course he did. For years they had been contemplating about this battle. Even while he was wearing his armor and sitting in the chariot, even while he was taking the chariot right into the middle of the battlefield, he knew there was a war out there. Then why suddenly Arjun asks and argues with Lord Krishna and saying that if I kill and destroy all of them, they are my family. And if all the men die, what will happen to the women? If these women, they marry people of other lands, what will happen to the generation that follows? If that generation is not as strong and as noble as ours, what will happen to the entire society? If the society is unsustainable, then everybody would discard it to hell and nobody would be lifted to heaven. Should I be the cause of such degradation? Look at the way he's arguing logically with Lord Krishna, but that is all a question of lack of self-belief. When he starts questioning himself and his purpose and his meaning. Normally, in any such state of depression, the modern doctors or health and safety people would tell you that if your mouth is dry, take some glucose water. If your hands and feet are trembling, let me massage them. If your mind is spinning, lie down just for quite some time. Breathe in and breathe out. This would be the normal way of overcoming depression. It's not wrong. But Lord Krishna says something else. He says, Klebhyam masma gamaha partha neitve tat upapadyate shudram radayam dorbalyam tyaktva tishta parantapa. Arjun, get rid of this cowardice of this heart. Rise and do and perform your own duty. To instill back self-belief is more important in life. In these times of coronavirus crisis, all of us have begun to question ourselves and our own beliefs. And if you keep overthinking and asking that what's going to happen to my children, what's going to happen about education, what's going to happen tomorrow, I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not saying it's right. But overthinking in any manner, right or wrong, will lead you into a confused state. And when you start asking questions which really can't be answered, then it becomes more and more difficult to bring back this belief in our own selves. To bring back belief that yes, times are hard, but we can get over them. Yes, it's difficult, but we'll find a way through. Yes, everything has suddenly been disrupted because of our friends, because of our faith, because of all the things that are happening, because of the whole world that is sharing the same grief. We will find a way, whether it's prayer or whether it's purpose. So it's very important that Lord Krishna teaches us in the Gita that we need to first stand on our own set of beliefs. Refine them, align them with spirituality, and we will be able to overcome. Look at life. Those who really believed in themselves have been really able to bring a change, not to themselves alone, but society. Mahatma Gandhi, when during the freedom movement of India, when Acharya Kripalaniji told Mahatma Gandhi that your idea of non-violence will not work, because every revolution in history has had blood on its hands. There can never be a complete and a fulfilling revolution that is completely non-violent. And Gandhi said, but why? Acharya Kripalani told him that history tells us. That's when Gandhi said, well, history will change. His self-belief was one of the core beliefs that helped him change history. Do you or do you not believe in yourself? Those people who do, they create wonders. Let's go back to Europe for a while. It was in the early 1500s, from 1501 to 1504. In Florence, there was a competition of a block of marble. And that block of marble had been worked upon by other artists in the past, but nothing much had come up. And there was a national competition of which artist could create a wonder from this block of white Carrara marble. It was known as a giant. There was a gash right in the middle of the block. Some of the greatest artists were invited to the competition, like Leonardo da Vinci, and so many other great artists had come. But Michelangelo, at the simple age of about 26, he participates in this competition and he comes up with this idea of creating David. At this moment, one of the most balanced and most celebrated statues or work of art in the world today. He presents his plan of his David. Till now, the famous artists before him had carved David, because David is a very important biblical figure. And they carved David after his fight or victory over Goliath. Either David holding the head of Goliath, which he has chopped, or either Goliath dead in front of him and David standing on him. So many different forms of David had been carved and painted. Michelangelo comes up with an idea that my David is different. My David is a David before he fights the war. My David is a David where in his mind he has decided that he will fight Goliath. The greatest moment of courage is the moment when you decide to do something impossible. The moment of self-belief is the greatest moment that we should celebrate. So he creates a David who's looking up in the air as if he's thinking with his eyebrows slightly wrinkled. He creates a David which only has one stone in his hand and other hand over his other shoulder with a sling. His David is not a David who has a bag full of stones needing other stones, because his David is so complete and fulfilled in his self-belief that one stone is enough for Goliath. One of the reasons this statue is celebrated is not just because of the art, but also because of the thought. That if some character has so much belief in oneself and is founded completely in himself, then that is the most powerful image of the human being. So believe in yourself. When you believe in yourself, others will also believe in you. Bhagavan Swaminarayan has said that in times of illness, when somebody feels helpless and hopeless, that is not the way that illness will disappear. But those who keep courage and those who nurture a belief that things will be better, those are the people who emerge victorious from an illness. So in any time of difficulty, to have this courage and self-belief is one of the ways that earns you the blessings of the divine. Modern science tells us that positive thoughts, positive belief is a great boost to immunity. Of course, medicine helps. Of course, herbal treatments. Of course, all your nutrition and your diet is important. And all the precautions that we are taking for health safety. But positive belief is very important for immunity. A lot of experiments have been done, sometimes in the past by Harvard experts, Stanford experts, that if you have positive images, if you look at things which are positive, if you insert positive ideas in your own mind, then it helps the immunity system. But recently, one thing which we have been living with, that stress is bad. Recently, it has been proved scientifically. One health psychologist, her name is Kelly McGonigal, she has come with an idea after a research or experiment with almost 30,000 people. And that experiment tells us that till now we believe that stress kills us. And of course, when you are stressed, you are perspiring, your heart rate is high, and you find it difficult, and you can't sleep. All those things are there. But she has come with an idea which is very novel, and I think it's very important at this time, that if you have positivity towards stress, if you turn stress into your friend, then stress does not really do the damage that you think it can. 3 types of questions were asked people, that how many people believe that stress can kill? And how many people believe that stress does literally nothing? And how many people believe that stress is helpful? So there were people who were asked these 3 questions. The other 3 sets of questions which were asked, that how many people believe that they have high degree of stress? How many believe that they have minimal degree of stress? And how many believe that they have average degree of stress? And from this experiment, it was found that those who believed that they had a high degree of stress, but they believed that stress is not harmful, they lived longer. And those who believed that they had low degree of stress, but they kept believing that stress is harmful, it can kill, it did more damage to them and they were more likely to die. So the conclusion is, yes, stress is difficult and challenging, but if you believe that stress is harmful and can kill you, it does. And if you believe that stress is harmless and it can help you, it really helps you. And when she was asked that if you had a choice of a high stress life and a low stress life, which life would you select for the human being? And very naturally she said that I would choose the life that gives me more meaning. It's not about stress, about a meaningful or a meaningless life. See, after retirement, so many people start completely decaying and degrading because they feel they are purposeless, useless, and meaningless. Even if you have so much to do, but if there's meaning, then your life and health improves. Just as we had talked about a doctor in the last session who had everything, but because he lacked self-belief, nobody could believe in himself. But even contrastingly, if you have been robbed of everything, but if you have self-belief, you're able to bring back everything. It was in 1870 that a very famous engineer in America, he ventured to build a bridge across Manhattan and Brooklyn. The bridge was called the Brooklyn Bridge. He presented the plans and people laughed at him because it was the longest and perhaps the first suspension bridge of its kind in the world, more than half a kilometer long. But nevertheless, John Roebling and his son Washington Roebling and his son's wife Emily Roebling, all 3 of them embarked upon this almost impossible venture. It so happened that John Roebling died of a misfortunate accident. Everybody thought that this bridge and this entire project was cursed because it was impossible. But a set of self-beliefs motivated Washington Roebling to continue with the designs of his father's bridge. While he began the bridge and the foundations were laid, suddenly he also met with an unfortunate accident and he was paralyzed completely. The only thing he could move was his finger. He was bedridden. Once again, there was rumors and discussions and whispers that this bridge would not be completed because it has been cursed. It's impossible. But Washington Roebling, who had been robbed of everything, his father, his life as a whole, complete movement or normalcy, only thing he could move was his finger. But he and his wife devised a system or code where he could communicate with tapping his finger of all the maps and everything that had to be transported to the engineers. And he and his wife continued. guiding the engineers. And in 13 years, by 1883, the Brooklyn Bridge was opened. The name has been carved. From the window, Washington Roebling saw people walking on that bridge. He helped create that bridge, not so that he could walk on it. He helped create that bridge because he had self-belief. Even if you are robbed of everything but you have self-belief, you can still create wonders, not just with things, but with your own life as well. Remember, in conclusion, I would like to add that what you believe makes you behave. And if you practice that behavior again and again, you become that being. So if you believe in anger, then you will practice anger. And what you practice, you become good at. And what you become good at, it becomes a reflex action. And you'll become angry at almost everything that you see. And then you become an angry being. Just as like you practice jealousy. If you keep practicing jealousy, you become so good at it that you become jealous of almost everything and everyone. And your being becomes jealous. If you have negative beliefs and you find negativity in everything, then you keep practicing negativity, become so good at it, becomes second nature. Even in positive things, you will see negativity and your whole being becomes negative. But one of the most important things in life is, of course, self-belief gives you strength. Self-belief gives you success. Self-belief gives you the power to do the impossible and create wonders. But self-belief alone, believing in just yourself, is not enough. It can make you arrogant. There are so many leaders, so many successful people who have become successful and leaders, but they are too arrogant to connect to others. Another most important factor that Hindu wisdom teaches us is don't just believe in yourself, but also believe in others. There are some things which a single human being can never do. It's like you could be really good and nice, but if you can't relate to your family members, you can't run a family. You need to believe in others. You could become the prime minister or president of a country, but if you don't believe in the people around you, you can't run a country. So there are so many things that you can do with believing in yourself. But to enjoy success, to really share success, and to really be happy with success, you need to believe in others. The next session of Timeless Hindu Wisdom, we will look into belief in others. Jai Swaminarayan.